time on ComputerWorld Canada in Conversation. One of the benefits of belonging to an international family of publications like IDG is that we have access to journalists all over the world, and we get their insight about what's happening in IT in their region. IDG India's editor-in-chief, Vijay Ramachandran, was in Toronto recently, and he spoke to our own editor-in-chief, Shane Schick, about the state of IT in India.
So, obviously when the economic recession hit North America, there was a lot of discussion about what that meant for enterprise IT in terms of projects either being put on hold or abandoned completely and that sort of thing. What was the experience within the IT sector in India?
Okay, it's very interesting because apart from a few sectors which are very outward facing for India, facing towards the West particularly, like software services or textiles or even diamond cutting. Most of the Indian economy was actually perfectly fine and doing well. However, what came our way was something called sentiment, and Indian industry responded to the recession in the West with a lot of caution. So projects were put on hold. Anything or almost everything that had to do with capital expenditure was completely shut down. Operational expenditure also went down. We saw that. It has come back in a very strong way. However, I would still say Indian industry is looking at it cautiously optimistic. So they know some things are nice. The resurgence has been very good. There has been a marked increase in the way the economy is doing, in the way the automobile sector has done, in the way anything that has been facing inwards has done. But they're still a little cautious this year.
We, in Canada, we've traditionally talked a lot about a skill shortage and not having enough people to fill the positions. I know that recently you've conducted some local research about sort of what the IT labor market landscape looks like in India. Can you talk a bit about what you're seeing in terms of turnover within enterprise IT staff?
Sure. Even last year, which was traditionally not considered a great year for anyone to make a move, IT teams saw at least 17% of their staff leave. We're seeing those numbers at least double this year. We're seeing those numbers, we're seeing that kind of change despite appraisals going well, despite increment cycles that have just kicked in. We're seeing people move. For a large number of the IT staff who are moving, it's been higher compensation that's been the driver. Last year, most of them didn't get any increments. In some cases, took cuts in their salary. This year, the boom's happening. So increments are typically ranging between 10 to 16% in their organizations. But that's far less compared to what others are willing to pay them, including the IT sector itself. So software services has a skill shortage too. And they're picking up a lot of people who would traditionally be working for end-user organizations like manufacturing or pharmaceuticals or chemicals. And so you can't really fight. And CIOs are having this huge challenge this year of being able to control their teams from just going away. The other thing that we have seen is that they're seeing their entire middle layer or the people that they really depended upon to keep the things going. People who've spent between 3 years to a little over 10 years in the organizations, those who know the systems and processes really well. This is the layer which is seeing the maximum amount of churn. Well, CIOs themselves tell me that this is a great time for them to move. So,
do you think, there's only so much you can do about money. If you can't pay more, be more competitive, there's not much you can do. But in terms of that middle layer that's leaving, do you think that there's more that needs to be done in terms of succession planning among CIOs to make sure that they are doing something to kind of retain those people, give them a sense that there is a career path available for them?
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that because most of this middle layer that's leaving are leaving to become CIOs elsewhere. So they've already figured that, if their CIO himself is not moving upwards, then it's possibly a good time to move to that role somewhere else. Succession planning, I think, still needs a lot more work for Indian CIOs to do. I think a lot more needs to be done by them. They haven't put in place those formal structures or even informal structures to mentor their next in lines. And I think they're paying for it this year.
When we talk about India and North America, we're often talking about the outsourcing market. Given what's happening in terms of attrition and turnover within IT, what is the impact that that's having on, I guess, the predisposition of CIOs to outsource their IT function?
Very interesting, because last year, as part of all the cuts they were making in their IT budgets, a lot of CIOs actually decided to end relationships that they had with outsourcers and did all of it internally. So there was this trend towards insourcing. We saw this typically in manufacturing industries, not so much in IT or IT-enabled services companies, but definitely in manufacturing. This was a big, huge trend. This year, however, based on better budgets and based on the fact that they're going to lose people, and they're already starting to lose their teams, we see outsourcing becoming a huge trend, particularly managed services. I'll give you an example. Big, large organized retailer based out of Mumbai lost their head of security, and the first choice for them was to just go for managed security services. They never replaced that position.
Right.
And this happened just about 3 months back.
In your research, there was a mention of a change in sort of the CIO mindset. Can you talk a little bit about what that's been?
Yeah. One of the things that happened last year was managements expecting a lot more out of their IT leaders than just IT. So we've seen a lot of IT leaders gravitating to doing things like HR or admin, or even take on profit and loss responsibilities outside of whatever they were doing with IT. We're seeing that as a very, very strong trend, because I think CIOs are themselves realizing that they can't just do IT and hope to move into general management positions. Another trend that we are seeing, it's a strong trend, and we're seeing that with CIOs who are typically in their early to mid 40s, is actually dumping their careers as IT heads and moving on to being CEOs of companies that they're running themselves, or moving on as consultants, in which case they report only to themselves. We're seeing a big, huge trend here.
That was Vijay Ramachandran, Editor-in-Chief of IDG India. He spoke with Shane Schick at our Toronto office. Thanks for watching.